right? So if you wanted to take something, say, kind of like an animated piece of footage or a graphic or something like that, like a stop motion animation or mostly like an animated file, and bring it into your Premiere project and kind of have it interact with some live video footage. The question is like, how exactly would you do that? Like, how would that work? So what I'm going to show you now is just a really simple example of how you might try and do that. And so, lots of different ways to do this. If you look up tutorials on YouTube, you'll find a million that'll give you different directions. This is just the way that I know how to do it. That's pretty straightforward and simple. So if you look at your, I just have an example sequence that I've made here with this background in it that I would like let's say I want to have a bird kind of show up in this space, right? The really simple way for me to do that would be if I had my animated bird file. So I think right here I have if I open it up, I have a piece of footage that's like, this bird that kind of does a looping, flapping of its wings action against a white background, right? So this is all hand drawn in Photoshop. I just brought it in kind of as a movie file, right? So if that is what I want to use, what I could do is just go in here and go to and just drag this bird example down and drop it in there. And if I do that, you'll see that it's kind of going to show up in the middle of the page, and it's going to have this white box around it, right? And that's something we can totally easily get rid of. We could key it out, right, if we have our keying software, but also I'm going to show you a different way to do it that might be a little bit faster. And then I'm going to want that to sort of like look like it's looping like for longer than just one little section here, right? So how might I do that? So I'm going to just delete this and I'm going to start all over again with a new sequence. One way you could do this would be to go to control click on this, and you can go in here and go to new sequence from clip. So if you control click on that and go down to new sequence from clip, you'll see that okay, it's made a new sequence for me out of the clip that was in there, right? And so since this is looping, I ought to just be able to copy this, put my playhead at the end and hit V, right? And it should loop. So let's check it and see. Yeah, it looks pretty good, right? So I'm just looping. So I ought to be able to just go to the end of this one and just hit Command V again. And I should be able to just loop this for a super duper long time for however many seconds I decide I want to have that bird kind of do the same thing. So now if I scroll back, it's just the bird's just going to like look like it's flapping its wings kind of forever, right? Sitting in place, just looping over and over and over and over again. So I could do cross dissolves or something, but I don't really need it if I animated this correctly. It's just a loop. So that's set. So now if I wanted to, I could go back to my sequence and I could grab this bird example piece of footage and I can nest it in there, right? Which you've already learned about. And now that bird's just going to like flap its wings forever in space. But the problem is, of course, that I've got this, I've got the white box. Like, how do I get rid of that white box to make it look like the bird is kind of in the space, right? So a simple way to do that would be if you click on the sequence up here, this piece of footage, and you go into your effects controls, you'll see there's a lot of options. There's opacity, which isn't really what we want, right? There's also this thing called blending modes, which is, you'll see this in Photoshop and Illustrator and a whole bunch of other pieces of software. If I go in here and I click on one of these, like if I go to like darker color, well, it's going to do that for me, right? You'll notice it just got rid of that white square, and here it's the white square is staying and the black has been deleted out, right? But so the one that you would want to use in this case, that's a really easy thing, is just to go to the one that says multiply. So that deletes all the white pixels out of the scene, right? Out of that piece of that square. The white square is gone now, and now this black bird's just going to flap its wings there, right? Another way that you could do it, of course, would be to key it, right? So if I wanted to, I could go back to this and go to make it normal, and then I could go into the effects controls here, go to key, and I could grab, just drag that on there, and then I could select the white sort of color in that file, and it will delete or key that out of there too. So again, there's multiple ways that you could do this. I can make adjustments in here to try to like change. You can sort of see a white glow around that, which you might not like. But I mean, again, like it's super easy just to change my blending mode with a black and white drawing like this into multiply, then it's gone, right? So now I have my shape, and I mean, I can move this thing around by grabbing this tool, and I can oh yeah, I might have to move it up here with the position, right? Okay, so I can move it around by changing it. So if I want it to look like it's a little bit higher, I could do that. I could change the scale. I can make it smaller, right? Just make it a little bit smaller of an item. I can also rotate it, right? So if you look at the rotation, I could change its like orientation. There are a lot of different things that you can do there, right? And so now that item is there, and let's say I wanted to make like more birds show up, I could hit Command C and then Command V. Oops. Let's see, I need to zoom this thing out. So I grab this, copy it, come over here, and then hit Command V, and then I could actually stack them on top of each other, right? So if I did that, now I'm going to have two birds, and then I can just make sure this one's selected, and I can change its position and its scale if I want to, and I can make it look like that. So now these, I've got two birds kind of floating in the middle of space. So you can arrange different graphic elements however you would like to around your sort of compositional space there. The last thing that you can do if you want to would be to try to animate this, like to make it move across the screen, let's say. So let's say I want to make this top bird look like it's flying across the screen. I could actually start with a position where the bird's all the way off the screen, right? So I drag this into the negative, and I hit that keyframe, right? And I go forward a ways, and then I change that position, and just drag it all the way across here like this, right? Now if I hit the play button, you're going to see the bird kind of fly across, right? And so, not very sophisticated, obviously, but it's got a little something to it. I could speed it up by just moving the distance between the keyframes together. So that means the bird will go across faster. Or I could stretch it out and make it go slower by stretching the space out. So now it's going to take its time. And then if I wanted more like movement in it, I can always like move it to where I want the movement to be, and then just change the position a little bit, and then move it forward a little ways, and change the position a little bit, move it over here, and I could really go crazy with like changing the position, right? And now if I push play on this, you'll see that I've kind of animated the position of the bird up, down. It's going to go way down to the bottom, right? And then slowly work its way back up to where it was. So this can be, useful. There are better programs for animation along paths like this, but this is a simple way to do it. And if I was really going to go crazy with this right about now, I would probably go in here and hit the stopwatch, right? And I would start animating the rotation so that bird looked like it's diving down, right? Move forward a little ways. Maybe put a keyframe again there. Change it. Add another keyframe here, so it looks like it's kind of moving up, and then maybe there I would sort of transform it back to kind of a flat trajectory, right? So now if you watch this whole thing, it kind of looks like the bird's gonna do a little more realistic motion, right? So you can have a lot of fun with this and moving items around on the screen and changing them. You can do this with type, with text. You can do it with shapes. There's no end to the things that you can kind of play around with as you move stuff around on the screen. So that is some basic kind of like, how to move animated elements around on the screen. Again, you can keyframe or key them out with a green screen type of a approach. You can use the multiply button here. You can go crazy and really start adding lots of different kind of techniques to this. Like there's all kinds of different things that these blending modes will do. So, knock yourself out, have a good time, make something, this is an experiment where you learn a whole bunch.